We have to save ourselves in Alberta. Canada itself is beyond repair. We can help Canada more. Keep your eyes on the prize. It's the referendum. It's a referendum win on a clear question to independence. That's the only path, the only way, and it's going to be a lot of work.
Western provinces just dropped a shocking announcement about their possible exit from Canada. What was once fringe talk has exploded into mainstream reality with independence petitions and youth TikTok campaigns. Alberta's booming surpluses now stand in brutal contrast to Canada's massive deficits and failures, fueling momentum toward a historic referendum.
Alberta has an Ottawa problem. For the last 10 years, Ottawa, led by successive Liberal governments, has taken direct aim at Alberta's core industry.
For years, we were told this was just some fringe conversation, some basement conspiracy theory, right? But now it's petitions, it's official statements, it's people openly talking about referendums. It's not hidden. It's not a small town barroom chat. It's out there, mainstream. And the reason is so obvious, it's painful. Ottawa has been playing target practice with Alberta's industries for years. If there's money to suck out of somewhere, they know where to find it. And guess who always ends up paying the bill? Alberta. Always Alberta.
This is an opportunity for you to present how you feel about those topics.
I would like to see Alberta collect 100% of the taxes and then send to Ottawa what we think they deserve.
Let me throw a number at you that will make your blood boil. Over the past 40 to 50 years, more than $600 billion have been sucked right out of Alberta. $600 billion. Wrap your head around that. That's not just a number on paper. That's money that could have built schools, hospitals, infrastructure.
We want to work towards something. We want to work towards an independent Alberta because it will be better for us.
That's money that could have actually lowered taxes for Albertans. Instead, it goes out the door. Every single year, it averages around $20 to $22 billion, leaving this province. Do the math and it comes out to about $5,000 per Albertan every single year. So imagine this. You, your neighbor, your coworker, everyone basically writing Ottawa a $5,000 check each year, just so they can throw it at Quebec or some liberal voting region. How is that not robbery dressed up as patriotism?
Alberta, year after year, has $20 to $25 billion that is siphoned out of our system to go to Ottawa so that it can be spent mostly in Quebec, but also in other places that vote Liberal.
And people wonder why frustration is boiling over. It's not hard to see why. Alberta was created back in 1905, and for most of its history, it played along nicely in this confederation. But fast forward to 2026, and suddenly you have petitions gaining legal ground for independence. That's how bad it's gotten. We've gone from just part of the country to, do we even want to be in this country anymore?
We have been watching this for years. $600 billion in the last 40 or 50 years that have been taken out of this province. You don't think we might be able to do a little bit more on social spending?
That's how far Ottawa's managed to push it. And you can't call that crazy or irrational when the math backs it up. People are done. They're tired of the game, tired of being used as Canada's piggy bank. The independence debate is no longer fringe. It's now dinner table talk, campaign talk, referendum talk. And that's the shockwave hitting the West.
Canada's coming into a panic. Carney is not the diplomat that the elbows up people thought he would be. The trade deal, there is no trade deal. It's as woke as ever.
But let's move into the mess that is Ottawa versus Alberta. Because honestly, this relationship is like a bad marriage. You ever seen those couples where one partner keeps taking and taking while the other just gets drained dry? That's Alberta and Ottawa. Successive Liberal governments have made it their side hobby to undermine Alberta's oil and gas industries. It doesn't matter if the market's down or global demand is up, the one constant is Ottawa getting in the way. And people act like Alberta's supposed to just smile and say, thanks for the scraps.
Alienation and grievance been like such a long-standing thing. It's also that there's like an actual like organized party, or not like political party.
Take Section 95 of the Constitution. It originally gave provinces the power to control immigration and agriculture. That was the deal. That was the law. But guess what? Ottawa flipped it, reversed it. Now the federal government calls the shots, and provinces just kind of sit there waiting to be told what's next. Massive immigration decisions that Alberta has little control over are straining everything. Healthcare, schools, housing, you name it. Costs keep going up, wait times keep getting worse, and yet Alberta's voice in the matter is barely a whisper. And people wonder why resentment keeps growing.
Provincial legislatures shall make laws on immigration and agriculture, and from time to time, the federal government will make laws. We've reversed it. We've allowed the federal government.
It doesn't stop there. The equalization system is the cherry on this rotten cake. Ottawa takes money from Alberta and redistributes it mostly to Quebec and other regions that conveniently vote Liberal. So Alberta ends up looking like the bitter ex who's still paying for their former partner's luxury car while struggling to fix their own busted furnace. And honestly, how long do people think that resentment can just be bottled up? It's boiling over.
The amount of wealth that it generates and just the amount that's plundered and how much it's demonized out east, right? And how much it's hampered out east, right? For example, Quebec.
And yet, while Ottawa meddles, Alberta is still stepping up for itself. Calgary's new police chief working with the sheriffs is a small example, but it's symbolic. It shows that Albertans are taking more control over their own affairs. The more Ottawa squeezes, the more Alberta pulls back and says, "Fine, we'll handle it ourselves." It's almost poetic, really. Ottawa keeps pushing, and Alberta keeps finding new ways to say, "We actually don't need you."
The trajectory of Canada, even like post-COVID, is headed towards like so much authoritarianism and censorship.
Now let's talk money, because this is where people's eyes really pop. Alberta loses $20 to $22 billion every single year to Ottawa. Let me repeat that, every single year. And what does Alberta get in return? Basically nothing. That money funds programs in other provinces. And we're not talking about pocket change. Over the last 40 to 50 years, it's added up to more than $600 billion leaving this province. That's generational wealth gone. But it's not just the money taken away. It's the money never allowed to be made. Think about the opportunities Alberta has missed because Ottawa blocked projects. Japan and Germany wanted Alberta's natural gas. They came knocking. But Ottawa, in its infinite wisdom, said no. So Japan and Germany went to the US instead and signed deals worth $7.5 billion. $7.5 billion gone. That could have been Alberta's deal. That could have been Canadian jobs, Canadian revenue. Instead, it's another reminder that Ottawa prefers ideology over prosperity.
Who likes the APP? And who would prefer no Alberta pension?
And here's the thing. Despite Ottawa draining Alberta dry, this province is still doing better than the rest of Canada. Alberta posted an $8 billion budget surplus, and that wasn't even in a year when oil prices were sky high. That's just smart management. That's just a pro-business climate doing its thing. Compare that to the rest of Canada, where deficits pile up and provinces trip over themselves begging for bailouts. Alberta stands out like the one student who actually studied for the exam while everyone else was partying.
When it comes to the independence movement, the federal game doesn't mean a bloody thing. It doesn't. If you want to take a federal independence party, like I said, we said the closest thing was the PPC, or what was that, the United Canada one, or whatever that guy is. They tried kind of talking about reform and ending equalization and things like that.
So when people talk about independence now, it's not just anger, it's not just rebellion, it's logic. The numbers back it up, the lived experience backs it up. People see the billions flowing out, they see the lost deals, they see the economic sabotage, and they're asking the only question left. Why stay in a relationship where you're constantly robbed, blamed, and ignored? Independence isn't fringe anymore. It's the natural reaction to decades of being played for fools.
They've blown the deficit up to $92 billion. Even Trudeau didn't come close to that kind of spending. Canada's going broke. Canada's up the creek. The manufacturing sector in Ontario, Doug Ford trying to push for more subsidies.
You ever notice how every rally, every independence event, it's usually the same crowd? The older guys, the ones who've been carrying the torch for decades. Don't get me wrong, they've done the heavy lifting, but let's be real, they're not the ones who are going to drive this movement into the future. The real shift is happening with youth. Suddenly, the stage isn't just full of gray-haired men talking about how Ottawa robbed Alberta again. Now you've got young people stepping up, putting their own spin on independence, and making it actually reach audiences that were never in the room before.
This sort of hypocrisy, ties back into basically everything else, like in regards to, how Alberta's been treated, in terms of economics.
And they're not doing it by handing out leaflets at a town hall. No, they're doing it on TikTok, Instagram, and memes. That's where the battle is now. You've got something like the Independence Peter Griffin videos, yeah? Family Guy characters dressed up in Alberta shirts debating independence. It sounds ridiculous, but guess what? The second one of those videos hit 20,000 views in just a couple days. 20,000. That's not just someone ranting into a void, that's traction. That's proof people are watching, sharing, laughing, and maybe even thinking about independence in a whole new way. And if you look at the demographics behind those videos, it's even more telling. Almost half the audience, 47%, are between 18 and 24. That's practically an entire Gen Z classroom tuning in. Then another 30% are 24 to 35. So add it up, and you're looking at more than 3/4 of the viewers being under 35. That's the next generation, and they're not at some dusty community hall. They're on their phones, scrolling, double tapping, and spreading ideas faster than any pamphlet ever could.
So we're going to have to fight that. We're going to need everything we can to do it. So when you're wasting resources elsewhere, that means you're not directing them towards the referendum, the petitioning, the things that are going to happen for us really to become independent.
The contrast is hilarious when you think about it. Facebook has basically become the retirement home of social media. It's where you go to see your aunt's vacation pictures or argue about gardening. But that's where the older independence crowd still hangs out. Meanwhile, the younger activists are shaping WEXIT with 10-second clips, meme battles, and formats designed to hook people with short attention spans. It's like two different worlds running parallel. And guess which one actually has the momentum? It's not Facebook. Saskatchewan, British Columbia, and Manitoba also aren't just watching Alberta's fight from the sidelines anymore. The same frustrations, billions drained, projects blocked, industries strangled, are hitting them too. If Alberta walks, the others have every reason to follow. Saskatchewan with its oil and farms, BC with pipelines, Manitoba with resources together, they make Ottawa's nightmare real.
If somebody drops, you think it's from the gas, you don't run in to try and save them. You save yourself first. It's not being selfish, it's being smart.
That's why the oxygen mask analogy fits so perfectly. On airplanes, they tell you every single time, put your mask on first, then help the person next to you. Because if you pass out trying to be a hero, you're no good to anyone. Alberta has to strap on its own oxygen mask before it even thinks about helping the rest of the country. Independence isn't about being selfish, it's about surviving. And then there's the crab bucket metaphor, which is so on point it's almost painful. You've got one crab that's finally managed to climb up the side, about to escape the boiling water. But the other crabs don't let it go. They reach up, pull it back down, and make sure everyone stays miserable together. That's Canada. Every time Alberta tries to get ahead, Ottawa or some federal policy yanks it right back down into the bucket. Stay poor, stay controlled, stay quiet. That's the message.
Canada itself became autonomous from Britain through a process called responsible government, and power should be devolved to work closer to the people being governed.
If you look at Section 95 of the Constitution, it's a special section.
Now compare the numbers between Alberta and Ontario, and you'll see why this analogy stings so much. Alberta is building 60,000 new homes in a single year. Ontario has 3 times the population, but guess what? They're also only building 60,000. So either Ontario's asleep at the wheel, or Alberta is just proving that it can do more with less. Meanwhile, Ontario's manufacturing sector is collapsing in comedy-tragic fashion. Subsidized battery plants that never got built. Cricket factories that closed down. Billions wasted chasing fads that went nowhere. And while they're busy setting taxpayer money on fire, Canada's deficit balloons to $92 billion. $92 billion. Even past years under the same old crew didn't hit numbers that insane.
Those $20 to $25 billion stayed here. You don't think we'd be able to cut taxes a bit if those $20 to $25 billion stayed here? It is $5,000 per Albertan that every single year gets transferred out of this province.
So when Alberta talks about independence, it's not about hating Canada. It's about leading by example. Showing that if you cut the dead weight and stop funneling money into failure after failure, you can actually build a functioning province. Alberta's not saying forget Canada forever. It's saying we're not drowning with you. Independence is the only way to stop being pulled down by the crab bucket and maybe, just maybe, force Ottawa to finally reform. And that brings us to where things stand now. We're not talking about theories anymore. With petitions, rulings, and organizations pushing, Alberta is edging closer to a 2026 independence vote. It's not a vague dream, it's a timeline. And of course, there's always the sabotage attempts. Rival groups, desperate to shut things down, ended up embarrassing themselves so badly they had to close their own Facebook groups for days. Imagine that. The big plan to derail independence blows up in their face, and suddenly they're retreating from their own followers. That's not sabotage, that's self-destruction.
Boy, the legacy media outlets sure tried to pump the tires for her campaign, didn't they? I'd hear her on the radio, I'd see ads of political scientists talking, and others, or even, good old Max Fawcett was, Poilievre might be in trouble in this.
But the real work is still in front of Alberta. Independence isn't just about passion, it's about paperwork. It means mobilizing volunteers, collecting signatures, and hitting targets. And the big one is 300,000 signatures within the window. That's the number hanging over the movement. Without it, nothing moves forward. With it, the ball is officially rolling toward a referendum. And make no mistake, the people pushing for independence know the clock is ticking. That's why Alberta Day is being reframed in a new light. September 1st, 1905 was the day Alberta was created as a province. But now that date is being looked at less as history and more as a symbol of sovereignty, identity, and where the future might go. Independence rallies aren't just protests anymore, they're celebrations. It's not just anger at Ottawa, it's pride in Alberta itself. And that pride is becoming the foundation for what could be the biggest political shift in Canadian history.